You don't know how it happened. In your group, suddenly you're the one who's taking care of everything, managing all the items for your party, managing the funds. Growing up, nobody trusted you with anything, yet here these people are trusting you with everything. You just really don't understand how and when that role changed in your life. Hi there, Dr. Megan Connell, and this is Psychology at the Table. Today we're having part 2 of our ongoing series with board-certified psychologist Dr. Heidi Limbrunner. We're going to be talking about groups and group dynamics. So first off, welcome back.
Thank you. So happy to be back.
Yeah, it's awesome having you. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about the different roles people fill in groups.
Okay, awesome.
So when you have a group of people together, what are some of the common roles that people tend to fill that you might see around the table?
Sure, that's a great question. So typically you have like the leader, so the person who tends to kind of take control, kind of like drive the ship and kind of where you're going. Often you have a co-leader who's kind of next to that person, who typically won't counter the leader, will pretty much go along with whatever the leader suggests. You often will have a peacekeeper, the person who tries to keep the peace. If there's any conflict between the group members, tries to keep everybody together and part of the group. And then a lot of times you have almost like an antagonist, like somebody who tries to buck the system, challenge everything that the group wants to do. And I think those tend to be the most problematic group members that you can have.
Yeah, definitely. And if you've got somebody who is being antagonistic to the point that it's decreasing the fun and stuff, how are some ways that you can address that, or what are some things that you can maybe do to shift the dynamic of the group around a little bit?
That's a great question. And I think a lot of that comes within the group and the group dynamics. And then also a lot of that rests sometimes on the shoulders of the leader and how the leader responds. And I think a big piece that can be helpful is just the idea of validation. So if the antagonist has an idea, to almost like validate the idea, like say, okay, I can see where you're coming from. I can see how this works. And here's where we need to go as a group.
Yeah.
So you're not necessarily saying no or pushing them away, because when you do that, that tends to fuel the antagonist even more so. So kind of validate it, but then say, look, but this is what we're actually trying to do as a group, which actually gives the other group members an opportunity to kind of share their opinion and their viewpoint of what they would like to accomplish.
So in like the improv world, doing the yes and.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
Awesome. And that's like a really good storytelling technique and everything like that. One of the things in D&D we talk about sometimes is having a balanced party. Like you want to have your tank, you want to have your heavy hitter, you want to have your healer, you want to have your face, right?
Yeah.
And if we're thinking of a balanced party as not as far as characters, but as far as people around the table, what makes a good group dynamic? Like, typically, what roles do you want to see to have a group that's a lot of fun and to interact with?
I think you want to have like common beliefs and common values, like you're all working for a common purpose. You also want to have variety, right? So you don't want everybody to be the same. Every person's different, and every game player should bring unique strengths with them. Also, a group that kind of balances strength and weaknesses too. So if you have people that are good in a certain aspect but struggle in another area, that you have other players to kind of compensate for that deficit. A good group has good communication, and a good group wants to work together, again, for that common goal.
Awesome. Now, if you bring in a new player, and it's, bringing in a new player is always going to be an adjustment, bringing somebody in. And so you might see usually this isn't a conscious thing, right? When we go after a role in a group where it's like, oh, I'm going to be the peacekeeper now, or someone else used to be the peacekeeper.
Right.
How do you kind of deal with that dynamic of shifting roles and responsibilities?
Well, the interesting thing is that some of that happens naturally, and some of it is kind of giving the process some time. And a lot of times when you have a good group, those roles fall naturally into place. For example, when you have somebody join a new group and you already have like a peacekeeper, someone who always keeps the peace, it would be very unusual for the new person to come in also and be the peacekeeper as well. They typically find their own spot within the group.
Okay, and so taking that time to kind of drive, and like we talked about the different
I was just going to say, the different roles and the different formation, because a lot of times when you do add a new person, like you almost go through those stages of development of a group all over again, but in a different way.
Right. Yeah. Very cool. Any guidance that you would give to dungeon masters out there, game masters out there who have some some challenging roles? Maybe they've got a couple of antagonists at their table, some different ways that they can work on getting people to take on a different role or to coach them into being a different way.
Part of it is what are they looking for out of the group? Like what, you almost have to be a psychologist in a way, It's like, okay, what's driving their antagonistic behavior? Like what are they searching for? And is there another way to get that need met? Does that kind of make sense?
Yes, yeah.
So what's kind of driving that need to be antagonistic? I think the whole yes and thing is just so huge. I mean, I don't mean to go back to it, but I am, because it really is a key. People want to be heard. People are doing things for a reason to validate that, but then kind of still look for your common goal. Another one is just to kind of, if you can have a conversation about it, like talk that piece out. Like, don't ignore the behavior. Don't be passive about it, but point out what you're noticing and kind of start that dialogue to understand more what's behind that behavior.
Awesome. I think also, would it be helpful sometimes to coach people into a certain role? Like if someone's always being antagonistic, maybe it's rather than having them be antagonistic with a DM, but to make a character that becomes like their sort of arch nemesis.
That's a great idea. Absolutely. I think that's a fabulous way to kind of handle that behavior as well.
Yeah. I think also, there's tricks too, like somebody who's disorganized, and you can actually force them to be the one who organizes the group. And say, like, okay, here's the list of party supplies. Now you manage that.
Right. Yeah. So if you can assign them a role, exactly, like kind of do that in a challenging way for them.
Yeah. Awesome. Any final thoughts or things on roles that people fill in groups that you'd like to?
I think the key is to kind of be mindful, be aware of what's going on within the group, and just kind of paying attention to the dynamics within your group. I think that's the most important piece in all of this.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming back. Can't wait to have you back again to talk more group dynamics, since managing players around the table is one of the biggest things we do as Dungeon Masters. So thank you. I hope this was helpful. If you have questions, please leave comments below. And as always, let's make space at the table for everyone.